Hey there. Well, just wanted to get one more video in today. This is going to be a double upload day, but technically I missed an upload on Wednesday, so you're getting the same amount of videos as you have been the last few weeks. I hope you had a great week. I sure did. I've had a great week, and you know, like all of you, I'm sure most of you have had ups and downs this week, but at the end of the day, the Lord is good all the time, and I am just so grateful for everything that He has given me. I have a great family. I've got my health. And even if you don't have those things, but you have Christ, man, you've got it all. You've got it all. So let's all take a second and consider how awesome it is to be on the Lord's side. I'm going to pour myself a Miller Lite here, my new Fight Laugh Feast Club pint glass, which I appreciate you guys sending me. This is a pretty good glass. If you want to become a Fight Laugh Feast Club member, please consider doing it. You'll get discounts on all kinds of stuff, especially cool stuff like this pint glass. But anyway, it's Friday. It's close to the end of the day. I'm almost done with work for the day, but I wanted to just upload this video. One thing you might not know about old AD is that he is anti-war. Anti-war. Now, and I don't mean anti-war in the sense of like the theoretical. Like everybody's anti-war theoretically, but very few practice it. And you might say, hey, AD, didn't I just hear you the other day talking about how a Christian man should be ready to crack skulls if he needs to? And yes, I did say that. You see, the thing about being anti-war is not total pacifism, right? It's just, look, when something doesn't involve you, it doesn't involve you. So get out of it. There's no reason for the American military to be policing the world everywhere. There's just no reason for it. There's no reason for it. People can work out their own problems. And look, there's always a reason to go to war. There's always going to be someone that's in a tough spot. There's always going to be someone that's in a situation where they don't have a lot of good options, but that's not the Americans' responsibility all the time. Yes, we need to be for the oppressed. Yes, we need to be for those who cannot be for themselves, but that does not mean that we need to have an empire in every country all the time, fighting in everybody else's wars. Now, I want you to hear this presentation from Little Russ Moore here. Yeah, Little Russ Moore is a member of the war party. He wants constant war. He wants war all the time, even as he'll tell you that he's a peaceful guy and he's all about justice and he's all about these things. He's really not about these things. He's in the war party. He's an operative for the war party. Let me play this video here.
I'm filming this. There are Kurdish people, religious minorities in northern Syria, who have been handed over to potential destruction, slaughter, and genocide by...
Let me stop you right there, Little Russ Moore. Here's the reality. There's always a story like this. There's always someone who's vulnerable. There's always a people group who is vulnerable. That, if you use that as an excuse for warfare, you will have a perpetual warfare state. It will always happen all the time until the Lord comes back, until the great post-millennial, reign happens. That's not really what I meant to say. But anyway, so yes, this is very sad. People are vulnerable. People are religious minorities. People are on the verge of destruction. It's very, very sad to hear. But if this is going to be your justification for war, then you've just justified every war ever, because it's always the case that the people that want to go to war, the war party, will always say, well, there's these people. They're vulnerable. That's always the case. Dr. Russell Moore is in the war party. He is in the war party.
By an authoritarian Turkish government. And what you see is just a demonstration of the fact that life is very cheap in the world right now. I cannot believe the images.
Sounds like he's not kidding. Look at his face. It sounds like he's not kidding.
That I'm seeing out of Syria, of these brave men and women.
He can't believe the images he's seeing out of Syria, and he shouldn't, because it's fake news. Look at his face. He looks really pissed. All the images have not been fake, but that was funny, that ABC stuff with the explosions. We're going to get to that in a minute.
And who stood with our American soldiers in fighting ISIS and fighting other terrorists. I can believe that Erdogan and the authoritarian Turkish government would want to see them eradicated. I just can't believe that the United States is not standing with them. That's going to have implications multiple implications, including for persecuted church and persecuted Christians throughout the Middle East.
So, see here, this is really about Orange Man, that evil dictator. Can you believe how evil Trump is? He pulled American troops out of a war they have nothing to do with. Can you believe it? How could he be so evil? I mean, my goodness. I can't believe Americans aren't standing with him. Look, to stand with someone does not mean that you have to fight all their battles for them. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. And the reality is, I'm talking in retrospect, right? I said this at the time too, but in retrospect, it's very clear that Trump pulling out of Syria, it was the right thing, and it was the right thing even without knowing how it would turn out. It might turn out poorly for the Kurds. It might. But you know what? They can solve their own problems. They don't need Daddy America to come save them. They don't need that. I'm sorry, but Dr. Russell Moore, I know that this goes against everything you believe, but brown people don't need daddy, Americans to come help us with everything. We're capable of figuring things out for ourselves. We are. I know that the white savior can come and save you, but here's the reality. Like, can you imagine a Christian, for goodness sake, criticizing the president for being too peaceful? I want American troops out of this conflict. We have nothing to do with it. Let's get out of it. And he's like, well, I can't believe it. I just can't believe you handed them over on a silver platter. You just said, Erdogan, go ahead and slaughter them if you want to. Dr. Russell Moore, you can't really blame him for what he's saying because he's just saying what he's been told to say. I mean, Dr. Russell Moore is indistinguishable from the mainstream media. He is a puppet. It must be hard to live a life like that. Honestly, I feel some sympathy for Dr. Russell Moore because he can't really think for himself. He can't say what he really thinks. He's got to do what his puppet masters tell him. You could replace Russell Moore with this guy. This is a great video. Have you seen this video? I gotta tell you, President Trump is making it very difficult on me. I don't vote. But man, this is a perfect video. This makes me want to vote. I'm close, guys. I gotta tell you right now, my whole life has changed. You ever hear that John Mayer song? Want you so bad, I go back on the things I believe. Trump is making me feel that way. He really is. I don't want Trump. That sounded pretty weird. But man, he's making me rethink of what I actually believe about voting. Let's listen to this. This is great. This is Russell Moore. This pencil neck guy over here. This is Russell Moore.
All you have seen, ISIS prisoners freed, all the humanitarian disaster. You don't have any regret for giving Erdogan the green light to invade?
I didn't give him a...
You don't have any regret for handing over the Kurds on a silver platter? That's Russell Moore. This is the exact position that Russell Moore has. He might as well be in the fake news media. Listen to Donald Trump. This answer. I'm just going to play this. I'm going to resist the urge to interrupt this because this is perfect. I know Trump likes to exaggerate and talk about how he does things perfectly. And I don't think Trump does things perfectly. I've criticized Trump many times, and I will continue to criticize Trump because I'm not his slave, right? I happen to like him, but I'm not his slave. This video, this is a perfect video. Let's watch it with me. Let's just enjoy this.
To invade?
I didn't give him a green light.
Well, did you tell him?
That's
did he
the
defy
same thing
you?
as you just, when you make a statement like that, it's so deceptive. Just the opposite of a green light. First of all, we had virtually no soldiers there. They were mostly gone. Just a tiny little group. And they would have been in harm's way. You have a massive army on the other side of the border. But more importantly, I didn't give him a green light. And if anybody saw the letter, which can be released very easily if you'd like, I could certainly release it. But I wrote a letter right after that conversation, a very powerful letter. There was never...
I have to stop this. I said I would resist the urge. I have to. I thought that letter was very powerful. Everyone was mocking it. I didn't understand why people were mocking it. Don't be a fool, Erdogan. Do the right thing. That's basically what he's saying. He's saying, don't be an idiot. Do the right thing. If you don't do the right thing, I will destroy you. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good letter. Maybe he's referring to a different letter. I don't know.
Given a green light. They've been wanting to do that for years, and frankly, they've been fighting for many, many years. And when you ask a question like that, it's very deceptive, John. It's almost...
It is very deceptive.
You showing all of the bombings taking place in Syria, and it turned out that the bombing that you showed on television took place in Kentucky. So, you know, and I'm not even sure that ABC apologized for that, but certainly it was a terrible thing. I'm looking at this, I'm saying, wow, that's pretty bad. And it was in Kentucky, it wasn't in Syria, so I don't know what you're going to do about that, but I think ABC owes an apology.
You see,
I do
Lindsey
too.
Graham just said of your remarks that you made in the Oval.
Look at this guy. Look, this guy. This guy probably makes a lot of money. Would you ever want to be this guy? He's got his orders. They're written down on the card. He's got to do it. It's just like little Russ Moore of the ERLC. He's got his orders. You know, Soros has given him his orders. I don't know if it's Soros, man, but he's got his script and he's sticking to it. He's got no principles. You see, this is the thing. Like, when you're anti-war, you've got principles. You know, we'll fight, and trust me, we will win if we have to. But we don't have to fight this fight. This is not our fight. When we have principles, you can be a man. You can be proud of what you do. But when you have no principles and it's just, Orange Man just said this and I got to be against him. That's a tough life to live, man. I have sympathy for people like this.
Oval Office, that if you keep talking like that, quote, this will be a disaster worse than Obama's decision to leave Iraq.
No, Lindsey Graham would like to stay in the Middle East for the next 1,000 years without...
Lindsey Graham. This is one of Trump's allies. Lindsey Graham. And he doesn't want to take the bait of turning on Lindsey Graham. But the reality is he's right. Lindsey Graham would be just fine being in the Middle East for 1,000 years. And Russell Moore would be too. Because you know what? There's always going to be a minority there. There's always going to be, you know, some vulnerable people there. So let's just have an empire for 1,000 years and it'll be glorious.
Thousands of soldiers and fighting other people's wars. I want to get out of the Middle East. I think Lindsey should focus right now on judiciary, like the Democrats.
Good point.
The do-nothing Democrats, as I call them, because they're doing nothing. They're getting nothing done. They're not getting USMCA done between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. They're getting nothing done. And I think Lindsey should focus on judiciary. He ought to find out about what...
It is his job. I mean, it's only right. If your job is to focus on that, you probably should just focus on that and let the adults handle this kind of stuff.
What happened with Comey, what happened with McCabe.
Just like Russell Moore should focus on, what is his job anyway? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not that pathetic YouTube channel that he's got. One time he uploaded a video. And look, I have a small budget, a small YouTube channel. And one time he put up a video and I got a little notification. I got to it about an hour later and I looked at the video and it had like 23 views or something like that in an hour. And like, I could put anything out there and it'll get more views than that in an hour. Now, I'm not saying it'll get much more than that. But then again, I don't put any money into this. This is pathetic.
McCabe, Lisa, what happened with Peter Strzok, what happened with President Obama, what happened with Brennan. That's what Lindsey ought to focus on. That's what the people of South Carolina want him to focus on.
It's
the
true.
People of South Carolina don't want us to get into a war with Turkey, a NATO member, or with Syria. Let them fight their own wars. They've been fighting for 1,000 years. Let them fight their own wars. The people of South Carolina want to see those troops come home.
That's what I'm talking about. Seriously. Seriously. Like, I'd really want to know, in Russell Moore's fantastically intelligent opinion, when can the troops come home? When can they come home? That's what I'd like to know. Because I don't think he has an answer for that. And he has to check with his handlers first before he has an answer for that.
And I won an election based on that, and that's the way it is. Whether it's good or bad, that's the way it is.
That is the way it is.
If you look at this country, I'd be willing to bet anything, political instinct, that that's what the country wants. I'm not going to get involved in a war between Turkey and Syria, especially when, if you look at the Kurds, and again, I say this with great respect, they're no angels. If you look at PKK, take a look at PKK.
Oh, you see this? This is the genius of Trump, man. He answers questions. And you know, what we're told in the media is that Trump is unhinged, right? He's like a maniac. Like, he just pops off at the head. He's like me. Pops off at the mouth all the time. He's crazy, out of control, out of his mind, has terrible opinions. Does this look like a guy that's not in control of himself? At all. I mean, the guy, the interviewer, the pencil neck guy, is trying to talk over him, and he's just disregards him, of course. That's like he always does. But like, This is not someone who's unhinged. This is a completely reasonable opinion, and he's calm about this. As he's being attacked by this guy with bogus questions, right? Totally calm, totally in control, and answering the way we ought to answer. Your question is stupid, you're stupid, and it's time for the troops to come home. Man, that's what I'm talking about, man. That is what I'm talking about.
ISIS respects PKK. You know why? Because they're as tough or tougher than ISIS. You take a look at a lot of the things having to do, you have to say it. Nobody wants to say it. We're making the Kurds look like they're angels. We paid a lot of money to the Kurds, tremendous amounts of money. We've given them massive fortunes. And you know what? It's wonderful. They fought with us, but we paid a lot for them to fight with us. But just so you understand, we were the ones that captured ISIS. People let some go. They opened a couple of doors to make us look as bad as possible. We have a situation where Turkey is taking land from Syria. Syria's not happy about it. Let them work it out. We shouldn't be over there. And you should get your accounts correct. And you shouldn't be showing up buildings blowing up in Kentucky and say it's Syria, because that really is fake news.
That really is fake news, but that's not the point. The media does this all the time. That's not the point. Trump's answer was perfect. It was a perfect answer. They've been fighting for 1,000 years. They're probably going to be fighting for another 1,000 years, and I don't want to be a part of it. Why would little Russ Moore want to be a part of that? I don't know. I don't know. One thing I do know is it's not his kids that are over there. It isn't. It's your kids. See, being anti-war is more than just a slogan, right? Like, you actually have to do things, and President Trump here has perfectly made the case for being anti-war. Let them fight their own fight. Let them figure out their own stuff. We don't have to figure it out for them. We don't have to figure it out for them. They can do this. And they have. And they will in the future. And the war party is sneaky, man. They're conniving. And they'll lie to you. They'll tell you, oh, weapons of mass destruction. We got to get that preemptive strike first. We got to do it. My brother's calling here. I'll get back to him in a second. They're conniving, man. They'll make stuff up. They'll lie to you. They'll tell you, oh, yeah, he's gassing his own people. Yep, chemical warfare to his own people. Do you have any idea if that's actually true? No, you don't. You don't. But the war continues. And it always continues. It's nonstop. And so one man stops it. I'm not saying that he's the only man doing this. And I'm not saying he's doing it perfectly, because he should be stopping much more wars than just the one in Syria. But one man says, you know what? Let's pull our, handful of troops out of here. And the war party freaks out. And Russell Moore is in the war party. And he's wrong about this like he's wrong about a lot of things. So I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the Trump clips that are coming out this week, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great tweets. I'm having a good time with it. I hope you are as well. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful. God bless.